Hello everyone. I was watching the Facebook group for Quickly Suite, and there was a question about how to get MegaScans stuff into Unreal Engine, and I thought I would share my preliminary experiences with this. So it's not like I know a ton about this stuff, but I still think it can be useful to somebody. So I'm using 1.05, and I believe they update this quite frequently. So inside MegaScans Bridge, I'm gonna show how we can get one of these in. So basically, I'm gonna show how to get a 3D, an atlas, and a surface in. So let's start with a basic 3D object. So I have a rock here. So just select it and send it to Unreal. So I have a test project here I already have open. So I'm gonna export that. So inside Unreal Engine, just gonna wait for it to pop up. And here is the folder. And I believe I selected, there's gonna be an option at the bottom here saying, do you want to import and stuff like that? And I just said, don't ask me again. So that's why it didn't show up this time. And eventually you're gonna get a box like this. So you can say import material. You don't need to say import textures because they are being imported anyway. And you don't actually need to import the material as well, because currently they don't really contain anything useful. So eventually you're also going to get maybe a message box saying, do you want to import this as a normal map? And it should be okay. I like to check this always, that my normal map comes in as a texture group, world normal map, and the compression settings normal map, just to make sure, because sometimes Unreal Engine screws it up. So anyway, we got a box in here, another box, a mesh looking like this, and we got a material which currently is pretty blank. So we just need to hook up the materials. So the albedo goes into the base color, and the cavity map we don't use. The displacement we're just going to put down here for a second. And then we're going to take the normal map going in here, and the roughness goes into the roughness. And that's basically what you need to do. So I didn't do anything with the displacement map yet. Just going to show what we could get up just out of the box here. So already we can see that our rock is being textured and all. So it's pretty cool. In order to get the displacement map into play, what we need to do is to right click and say vertex normal wall space. And because we need to do this because this is a grayscale map, and Unreal Engine expects this in a world space. So we need to multiply these two together. Type in multiply, or just hold M and click. Then you just connect these two up, and then you can hook it into the world displacement. But currently it's not available, so you need to enable it by clicking the big node, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and finding tessellation, set it to, for example, PN triangles, correct free displacement, and that enables this one. So depending on your settings here, you might or might not see it, but if we take a close look at it and hit save, and then watch this area here, we should see it update. And I can see we should have displacement or tessellation. You can actually test this really quick by saying show wireframe, and now you can see you do have tessellation. You have tons of geometry here. Right, so let's switch back to lit mode. And yeah, that's basically what you need to do here. One thing you might want to do also is to enable LODs, but with tessellation and all that stuff, you may or may not really want to care about it, because maybe it's just going to be for some photographic scene or some sort, I don't know. But I personally don't like to use tessellation for anything in, for example, a game. But otherwise than that, you can go to the mesh itself. You can select under LOD settings, you can say import LOD level 1. And here you'll find the LOD1. So now you have the LOD1 imported, which has 8.9K triangles. And if you zoom in a bit closer, you can see this is LOD0, 18K triangles. All right, so let's switch to, what should we take? One of the surfaces. So let's pick this one. Again, we can just send this to Unreal, export. And while it's exporting, importing and all that stuff into Unreal, what I'm going to do is open up 3D Studio Max. You can do it in whatever application you want. And what I like to do is to just create a test plane for this. You don't really need to do this, but I like to do it anyway, just to see things a little bit clearer. So I'm just going to create a kind of square triangle, and I'm gonna go to my modifiers and add a subdivide modifier. Subdivide here, so it subdivides it just a little bit, and then collapse and export. So I'm going to export this and save it as a tut plane, which I already have saved. And I'm going to be using that in a moment. In here we the material or things importing. So again, just need to say import. Okay, so now we can select our gravel, and this is the little sphere that we get in along with the import. And I'm also going to import my little plane that I just made, my little tut plane. Which is here, and drag it in here and place it along the sphere. And we have a material, and I'm going to apply that. And again, we need to open up the material and fix it up. So drag in the albedo to the base color. The AO goes into the ambient occlusion. The normal map goes into the normal map. And the roughness goes into the roughness map. And again, if we want to use tessellation, that's the kind of the purpose of this plane here, because if I don't have enough geometry, it's not really going to show up too well. So that's why I did that. So if we select the big node here again, turn on tessellation. Do it. And we take the, the displacement map, get our vertex normal and world space, and multiply, and connect that up to world displacement and save. Now you can see the material on the sphere looking like this. And if you look close enough, you can see there's a bit of displacement, and you can also see the displacement here, just a tiny bit. What I like to do sometimes is to create a material instance for this material here, so I can tweak the height a little bit easier, more interactively. So I do that by taking this part here, and I'm gonna multiply in scalar parameter, convert to parameter and call this height. Okay, so now it turned all flat, but once we right click it and say create material instance, and then drag the material instance onto, so instead of using the original material, now we're using the material instance. I'm going to drag that onto both of them and open up the material instance. Now we see this view here, so we can check the height and then we can tweak the height here. So now we can basically say how high do we want the map to be. So if you combine this with a few other surfaces inside the same material and you play around with vertex painting and use the height maps, and you can create some really great looking effects. But yeah, that's something for another video. So let's finish off by looking at one way of using the atlases. So the atlases can be used in a number of ways, as far as I can tell. One of the ways I've been using them is, for example, with this one I used for the tree. I have a procedural tree in the background here. This one. Which basically is just a bunch of planes clumped together, which is kind of, I think, the standard way of creating leaves. I think I have the material. Where is it? Here it is. But in a way, the way I'm gonna get the atlases into Unreal Engine is basically just by, in this case, by double clicking it. And it's gonna open up the folder, and I'm gonna select the maps I'm interested in. In this case, let me just select all of this. I think I used the translucency map in this case here, but I can use this one as well. Then it kind of needs to be done currently manually, but that might change. So I'm just going to copy the name, or pick whatever name you want, select your maps, and then drag it in. Sometimes you need to kind of move around a little bit until it picks it up. And sometimes it doesn't do it, and you need to do it again. Otherwise, use the import button. That always works. Yeah, I think it's doing something now. Okay, and that way you're going to get these in here. So for something like this, I would probably take this and break it up into smaller pieces and save them out as 4 individual images, and then create similar separate planes for these. So if you just think of this as 4 pictures and you think of this as 1 picture, then what I did with this one, this particular one, was to, let's start all over again. I'm just gonna make a super fast version of this. So what I did was to create a plane looking like this, and I don't need any geometry really, so I'm just gonna use one by one. And I created a material, and I'm just going to take the diffuse and get my map. So again, I have my location here. I'm just going to copy that into the file name here and press enter, and select my albedo map and say open. And then I'm going to add an opacity map like that. Show in something. Two-sided. Why is it not showing up? Oh, I need to apply it. Great. And I think I need to say high quality or something. There we go. So that allows me to see what the plane looks like. So I'm just gonna scale this up a little bit, like this, so it has the correct proportions, I guess. So this part here isn't really not necessary. I just like to put it at the center for now. So what we could do with this, what I did was in this case here, because it's fairly symmetrical and can just use this as it is, I'm gonna duplicate it and turn it around, and duplicate it and turn it around, and duplicate it and turn it around like this. So I have an object looking like this. So it's kind of an illusion, and it works pretty well, I would say, in this particular situation. You can see it's not entirely precise, and I would probably need to tweak this a little bit so it doesn't look like they're all separate like that. So yeah, that's just one way of doing this. And while we at it, I'm just gonna do one more copy and flip it over just a little bit, just to create a little bit of depth, and see if I can position this somewhere like that. And let's do it again. So rotate this. Something like that. And maybe turn this just a little bit and make space for one more. Like that, maybe. I mean, so we have, whoops, so we have 3 in total, which are tilted like that. I'm just trying to aim so that I get the stem of this at more or less the same position, which doesn't seem to be the case for this one. It's completely off. Okay. I mean, yeah, this is probably pretty basic stuff, I guess. So anyway, before I do anything else, I want to select this. I should actually select all of them and convert them to editable poly. Select one of them and attach list. Select all of them. So now they are one editable poly. So I can just export it. Export here and call this a tut plant. So in here in Unreal, I'm going to import my tut plant. I don't need the material. And let's see, here we have the tut plant. It looks like this. So we basically just want to create a material for this now. And we're going to take the albedo into the base color, the normal map into the normal map, the opacity into the opacity mask, and we're going to switch the, click on the big node here and switch this from opaque to masked. That way opacity mask is going to be enabled. And then you can take the roughness as well, plug that into the roughness, and that is a super basic version. So now we can just drag the material onto here, and you can see it's kind of disappearing. So we need to also, on the material itself, say this is a two-sided material. So save again. And that way we will get something looking like this. So this is obviously a technique used for game development. So depending on what you're making, this may or may not be relevant at all. But it's definitely one way of doing it if you want to do something fast. And the last thing I'm going to add onto this is just show how we can also make use of subsurface scattering for this material in a very basic setup. So in order to do that, we click the big node again, go to masked, now the default lid, change that to subsurface. And there's a number of ways to tweak this and make it look better, or yeah, really good. So hold down 3 and click to create a vector, which is going to be the subsurface color. I'm just going to select something kind of like a light green color, which is the color that we're going to have to shine through. And I'm going to multiply the original map with that new color, that subsurface color. I'm going to put that into the subsurface color here. So that should create some kind of shine through. So you can see now it's shining through a little bit. And what you can do a number of tweaks to this. So you can I think you could multiply this maybe by 4 maybe. That's going to make the subsurface color quite a bit stronger. And again, it's something you can set up as a material instance in order to get a better feel of how it's going to affect each of these changes. Are going to affect your thing. So I would definitely suggest that you create a scalar parameter here, convert this, call this subsurface power or something fancy. Save this. And create a material instance. Apply that. And then now we can tweak the subsurface power. Okay, yep, I think that is actually what I want to show. There are tons of other things to talk about, but I hope this will get some people started with this. It's definitely worth playing around with, and the quality of these scans are really amazing. So thank you, Quixel Suite and MegaScans. Awesome things you're doing. Okay, so thank you for watching, and bye.